everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Now, for those of you who haven't been here before and you don't know who I am, my name is Tracy Mayhew and I am the author of several contemporary romances and YA fantasy fiction. Before I get into today's video, I just want to give you a quick update on how I finished Camp NaNo and my final word count. So for those of you that don't know already, at the beginning of July I set myself the word count target of 40,000 words. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to hit that. I reached 36,411 last Monday, which overall is really good. And don't get me wrong, I am really proud of what I managed to do, but I was slightly disappointed that I didn't get to the 40,000 words that I'd set myself. Only because a couple of days before the end of July, I had genuinely thought I would reach that 40,000 words. And when I didn't, it was disappointing. That's all I can say, really. But I'm over that now, I'm moving on, and I'm thinking of the positives. And the positives are that Not Just for Christmas is almost finished. I have 5 chapters left plus an epilogue. And after that, I will have, so by the end of this week or beginning of next, I will have a first draft that I can send off to my critique partner, that I can start editing, and I can start getting the ball rolling on getting this published in time for Christmas. After that, I will be looking at, as I say, publishing it. So cover reveals will be coming, release dates will be announced and all that good stuff. And I will bring you along on the journey where I can. I will also be sharing things over on Instagram. So if you want to give me a follow over there, that would be fantastic. The more the merrier. And then after that, I will be looking ahead to NaNo itself in November, which is when I will be focusing on, hopefully, the third and final instalment of the Viking saga. I will be talking more about that in October when I start prepping for NaNo. So keep an eye out for those videos because they are coming your way. But for now, we're going to talk about the books I have been reading and the books I intend to read in August. But just before I do that, as a quick aside, I just want to explain why I'm doing these videos. So I think sometimes with trying to balance work, writing, publishing and life in general, I think sometimes things like reading can sort of get lost in the chaos of everyday life. So my hope is that with these videos and the prospect of sharing the books that I intend to read with you, it will give me the impetus to carve out the time that I need to sit and actually develop that habit of reading and not let it fall by the wayside like I have so many times before. Because reading does bring me joy. It brings many of us joy, I'm sure. And so not read can sometimes, make us upset and, we struggle with that. So that's the aim with these videos, that I get to develop a reading habit that I can sustain and keep up with. So fingers crossed that I can manage that. I'm feeling positive at the moment, so, it's looking good at the minute. So the first book I'd like to share, the first book I read in July, was called A Recipe from Rome by Botten. And I apologise, I hope I said your name right, but if I haven't, I apologise. And this front cover basically sums up what this book is about: food and Rome, really. And I received this book as an ARC, which basically means an advanced reader copy. So if you're not familiar with what an advanced reader copy is, it is basically I get an early copy of the book in exchange for an honest review. I've already reviewed the book over on Goodreads, and now I'm going to review it here and talk about it here on YouTube because I think it's a book that deserves to be shared because it's a lovely book and I really enjoyed it. It follows the main character, April Appleby, who lives a very settled life. She's content living alone with her cat. She has a best friend who she runs a podcast with. In her life, she suffered a few losses that have kind of made her resistant to change and unsettled by change in general. So she's very happy, living her life day to day, just going about her business. But then one day, out of the blue, an old friend who she lost contact with years ago gets in touch with an irresistible offer, and that's where the story begins. I'm not going to say too much more because I know how we all feel about spoilers. But what I will say about this book is that you cannot read this book on an empty stomach because the descriptions of food in this book are so vivid that it will have your stomach rumbling all the time. It did mine. So just be aware when you start reading this that you will need to have snacks on hand probably. This book is on pre-order right now, and I'm going to leave a link below so that you can go and check it out if you so wish. It's got a release date of the 1st of September, so if you don't want to pre-order it, you can pop over to Amazon or whichever retailer you prefer on the 1st of September and get yourself a copy, because I highly recommend it. It's an amazing book. The second book that I'm going to review is The Trial by Rob Rinder. Now, for those of you that don't know who Rob Rinder is, he is a barrister in the UK, and he had like a Judge Judy type style TV show where he would settle disputes between partners or family members or business partners. And like I say, he's a bit like Judge Judy. So if you're familiar with her, then Rob Rinder is the UK equivalent of that. So this book follows the main character, Adam Green. And it tells the story of a celebrated cop who is on his way to the Old Bailey. But before he gets a chance to give evidence in this high-profile case, he dies. And someone is arrested for his murder. And the case to defend this murderer falls on Adam's pupil master. And so they have to develop a defence for this person that's been accused of this murder. There are so many red herrings in this book, and I'll be honest with you, I read this book in about 3 days because it was one, it was readable, but two, it was I so wanted to know what was going on and what would happen next. There are twists and turns, there are dead ends, and I'm telling you, I felt Adam Green's frustration whenever there was a dead end or a path that he didn't know which road to take and things like that. So I would definitely recommend this book. I kind of see it as like a 3-part drama that could be played out over 3 nights or 3 weeks or something, because it deserves more than just like an hour and a half film potentially, because the plot leads to such a good ending. Like, it was so surprising. I didn't see it coming, and in my opinion, those are the best kind of endings. But I definitely see it as a 3-part drama that could definitely be played on TV. But what an ending, honestly. I would highly recommend that book. So if you do have a chance to read it, please go ahead and read it. If you like crime drama, or if you're just interested in anything like that, it definitely needs to be read. Now we're going to move on to the books that I intend to read for August. Now I've got 2 books that I want to read for August. I'll be honest, I've already started one, and as you can see, I'm about 3/4 of the way through, coming up to 3/4 of the way through the first book that I intend to read, because I finished those towards the end of July, so I had some time to pick up this book and start it. So this book is Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, and this has been on my TBR list for a while now, and the reason I've picked it up now is because, as I said, I plan on turning my attentions to my Viking Saga series again. And so to go from writing Christmas romance to Vikings is, quite a leap. So I like to read books that are along the same sort of genre, and this is inspired by Norse mythology. So I thought this was the perfect way to get my mind kind of spinning and turning for my own story. So I'm going to read you the blurb just to let you know what it's like, or just to let you know what it's about. So, the greatest sagas are written in blood. A century has passed since the gods fought and drove themselves to extinction. Now only their bones remain, promising great power to those brave enough to seek them out. As whispers of war echo across the land of Vigrid, fate follows in the footsteps of 3 warriors, a huntress on a dangerous quest, a noblewoman pursuing battle fame, and a thrall seeking vengeance among the mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All 3 will shape the fate of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. Set in a brand new Norse-inspired world and packed with myth, magic and bloody vengeance, The Shadow of the Gods begins an epic new fantasy saga from best-selling author John Gwynne. Now, I've read his Faithful and Fallen series, which I absolutely loved because it's a 4-book series and it starts with a book called Malice, and the world building in that is so fantastic and it's such a good epic fantasy read that I have high hopes for this book. I'm not going to say too much about this book only because I don't want to give too much away, and I'm going to deep dive into this book in September. So that will be coming, don't worry. It's just I don't want to say too much right now, even though I've read most of it, because I don't want to spoil, next month's video. So you'll have to come back. You'll have to come back in September to see what I think about it. And the second book that I intend to read in August is, and I don't know if I'm gonna get the name right, but it's Kate Hamer or Kate Harmer, I'm not sure, but it's called The Lost Girls. Okay, and from the blurb, it's about a girl who was kidnapped as a child by a cult, and she's now dealing with the aftermath of that, which I thought was quite an interesting idea for a story. So I'm going to read you the blurb and see what it's about. So, lost, she narrowly escaped disaster. Beth is desperate to return to normality. After a 5-year ordeal, her daughter is finally home. But Carmel has questions she can't ignore about the cult that kidnapped her and about the preacher who gave her another girl's name. Found, she must survive a miracle. Digging into her past, Carmel uncovers secrets which suggest that she wasn't the only lost girl, and which put her in danger all over again. While her mother struggles to salvage the safety they've only just found, Carmel tries to come to terms with who she has become. But she remains haunted by the mystery at the heart of her disappearance as a child. What happened to the other lost girls? So that sounds like quite a good read, quite an interesting read. And I've noticed that she's already also written another book called The Girl in the Red Coat. So if I enjoy this one, I'm probably going to check that one out too at some point as well. So there you have it. Those are the books I intend to read. And A Recipe from Rome and The Trial were the books I've already read. Let me know if you've read those books, by the way, and let me know what you thought of them, because it would be nice to start a discussion about them. And if you do end up reading any of them, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with what I think. And if you've already read Shadow of the Gods or The Lost Girls, let me know, because again, it would be nice to chat about them. Even though I haven't read them yet, it would still be nice to see what others have thought about them. But no spoilers, please. Okay, so that's it for this week. Next week I'll be back with another video. But in the meantime, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. But until next week, I'll see you later. Goodbye.